Hello everyone, from Tony, the Scout Ghost. Today I want to speak with you about Batman Arkham Shadow because it's a game that is free for every Quest 3S user. I have a Quest 3S and so I decided to try it, also because it's the game of the moment. So I was very curious about it. This is a first impressions video, not a full review because I've only played around 25% of the game, which is a good chunk to have an opinion, but still not the full game, which unluckily I cannot play because I have a lot of work to do. But I want to give you my first impression about Arkham Shadow, and it's very curious that I've read some reviews about people that tried the full game, and are very similar to the first impressions I had, so I guess that what you will have in this video is still something that is very valuable to understand if you enjoyed this game. Okay, enough talking, so let's get into the review, which is talking anyway, but in a different way, so let's do it. So let's talk about the gameplay. As usual, I will try to do a spoiler-free review, but of course, I have to share some little details about the game. So if you really want to be totally spoiler-free, don't watch any video or any review. But you can be free that you can watch this video without having some hard spoilers. Also because I haven't finished the game, so I cannot tell you how it ends. Anyway, so the gameplay is about you being Batman and trying to fight evil people and make the good win, as usual. In particular, in this case, as Batman, you have to fight against the Rat King. And I will talk more about the story in immersion section because I think it's relevant more on immersive side. Here I want more to talk about the gameplay. So there are a few things that you do in this game in your adventure as Batman. The first one is fighting. You have seen for sure that in many videos about this game, you have to punch enemies. So most of the things you do during the game is finding bad people and bam, bam, bam. You punch them, you put them, knock out, and you can go. So the punches, the fighting is pretty peculiar in this game in the sense you usually use the controller to deliver first punch, and then the game suggests you how you have to punch this person. And for instance, you have to punch with this direction. If you use another direction, then it's a mistake, and the other person managed to block your punch, and they can counterattack you. So there are different things you can do. There are also combos, there are special ways of fighting, especially after the first punch, maybe that the system asks you to deliver a lot of punches. And then there is also some other actions you can do, like dodge by using the thumbstick. You can even do some kind of somersault and go over your enemy. You can use your cape. You grab it and you do this gesture to throw the cape in front of the enemies to stun them, and a few other things. And then you have a batarang. Here you can grab the batarang and throw it against the enemies. But it's a bit weird that the batarang is able just to stun them for a second, but then it doesn't hurt them. I guess the reason is that the developers want you to fight with your punches and not to just be a distant throwing batarangs at them. So even if they can be useful to stun them a bit, you still have to go into the action and punch these enemies. And there are a few different types of enemies, especially weapons they may have. So usually they have batarangs, but they may have some bats, they may have some guns or rifles, etc. And this is especially dangerous because you have not guns or stuff like that. So you have to punch them before they fight at you, or you have to go down and stealth mode. But I will go talk about that in a second. So talking about the fighting thing, I found it, first of all, I know that's a signature of Batman Arkham for what I've read. I know that's Batman, etc. But I still wonder why this guy that is so powerful, etc., can just punch people. I mean, he's Batman, he can have a lot of advanced weapons or whatever, and he's just like a boxer fighting people, and like, what the hell? So why they have rifles? He cannot grab a rifle and shoot at them. So maybe Meta also wanted something without much blood, so it can appeal the little kids that are going to get quests for Christmas. Maybe because I find it really bizarre. You find lots of weapons you cannot grab, so it's pretty strange. Plus, the problem is that this way, for me, the combat has become repetitive a lot. I mean, it's always, oh, somebody's arrived at me, bam, 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 rinse and repeat. Which, okay, it gets more difficult over time because in the beginning it's usually one versus one or two, and then there are more people fighting at you. There are sometimes they become a bit more difficult because some of them have a shield and you have to stun them and then to punch them. I mean, there are a few things. There are some special moves, so sometimes it's very satisfying that the last punch it does some animation and maybe do a kick in front on your face and the face, and that's super cool. But at the same time, it's always the same thing, you know. It's not that I have a lot of weapons or whatever. It's still like, okay, I go there and punch every people, which okay. It's still a bit satisfying anyway because it's punching. And then there is also a fitness factor in it because you have to do a lot of punching to defeat only one enemy. It's not that you give one quick punch and they are knocked out. So you have to constantly do this movement. So it makes you do a little of exercise, a bit counts as fitness. So prepare to not sweat a lot, but sweat a bit while playing this game. So apart from just punching, sometimes the enemies are too many or they have weapons, so you cannot just punch them because they're going to shoot at you. So you have to be furtive and you can go stealth mode, like arriving from the top and making them, you know, to faint or things like that. So there is this predator mode, if I remember correctly the name, it is just about fighting that way, going in high places, going down furtively, just knocking them down, etc., etc. Which adds a good variation to the fighting thing. But honestly, you know, that's my personal taste. I don't like to be a lot strategic, whatever. I just want to fight and vent myself that way. So sometimes I find them a bit boring because they slow down what I want to do. But still, I understand what they did. I mean, a lot of people love stealth games, and it's also kind of well made. So this is a good thing. Between one fight and the other, you just go around exploring the environments, and you can just go them naively, or you can activate a special detective mode that you do by activating the controller here close to your head. And you start seeing the world as bluish and with yellow highlighted some special elements that you can also analyze and uncover some details of the story or solve some lightweight puzzles that are around. Um, and basically with that you can interact with something, let's say, because the world is not fully interactive, just a few objects are. Some relevant ones and some little ones that are there as a decoration, like bottles. You can usually grab books and bottles, but you cannot grab all the books. So probably for optimization reasons, I mean, there's not a possibility of making Half-Life Alyx again, or because they wanted to spare resources while developing the game, which is already huge. Anyway, I didn't find this a big problem. And regarding the puzzles to solve, the problem of the whole game for me is that it feels running on a binary. There is no way to change what's happening, you know? Even discovering how to solve the puzzles, usually you're helped a lot. So at certain point that there is a safe, I have to discover what's the combination. I mean, that's something standard in the VR games, also not VR games. And I thought I needed to find a solution. Instead, the voice said, oh, let's activate the detective mode. Oh, go there, look for something. Go there, look for something else. Oh, this is the number. We found it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks for the help, but I'm not solving any puzzles. So you find a combination for me, basically. So again, I don't know if the reason is that this is more for kids and that you don't want them to go into too complicated puzzles, but sometimes I wanted to be challenged a bit more in what I can look for in the environment. What saves the day for me in the sense about the challenges is the There are some little side quests about finding some collectibles like little statues of the Red King or the radios of the Red King, etc. And usually they are in some places that are hard to reach, and you have to either solve some lightweight puzzles how to get there, and then you have to get there, which is a bit of platform, and maybe there are some uh, little ladders that you have to climb, or you have to jump in a special way, or you have to be careful of the timing of some dangerous things that may kill you. And it's very satisfying to get them. Usually, I like to, do this kind of side quest in game, and these are also a bit satisfying because there are little challenges. And I would say that sometimes for me it's been more entertaining to look for these little things than do the main quest because this is something where I'm a bit more challenged than the usual normal campaign, which okay, sometimes some fightings are challenging, but never too much, it feels also repetitive. Well, these little things is something I enjoy. And also sometimes in the main campaign there are also some platform moments usually about jumping between places, etc. Which had some variation on the game. The more you go on with the story, the more you gain XP points, especially after you end the fight, you immediately see you gain some XP points, and with these XP points you can go to your skill tree and increment how your punches are strong, how your armor is protecting you, and blah blah blah, the usual stuff. I would say that a lot of stuff is already activated by default, but you can get more XP points, which are pretty hard to get. I mean, it's not something you get a new XP points in 1 minute. You need maybe half an hour, 1 hour to get one. But still, it's good to see that you are improving over time. This game has no tutorial. You immediately enter into the action, and the game teaches you how to play it while you play it. So in the beginning, it's a lot about locomotion, teaches you how to run, to jump over to distant platforms, how to glide with your cape, how to use a grapple gun to get into high places. You can throw a grapple and then drag yourself into that position in high place, and all this stuff. And it takes a lot to arrive to the first enemy because it's teaching you the movement mechanics. And when you arrive to the first enemy, the game says, okay, now combat tutorial. Go to press, maybe it doesn't even say tutorial, say something like training session. And then press A to go to the training session. And you're teleported into a place where you're taught how to punch people. It's an interesting choice. It's also weird in a way. It's interesting because it lets you avoid the tutorial. And also, it is a good thing that it teaches you how to fight immediately when you find the first enemy. It's not that it teaches you how to fight and then you start the game and the first enemy is 30 minutes later where you forgot about how to fight. But at the same time, it's a bit strange because I see the enemy, I'm like, adrenaline, okay, I want to fight, and then, oh wait, let's go to another place to do a training session. I'm like, okay, but you're killing my immersion inside this Gotham City. But anyway, it's as I said, it's an interesting decision, pros and cons, and I'm curious maybe to find it in more games. Last but not the least important thing about the gameplay is that of course you can die. I hope for you not so many times. But what happens when you die is that there is some kind of animation about Harvey Dent say, oh, I'm sorry, I will revenge you. If it's not Harvey, it's Robin or someone else. Which is nice, but at the same time you're making me lose time. I just want to get back into the game, not lose 30 seconds in this animation, which is fun the first time and what the hell, let me into the game again, the other 100. But anyway, when you die, you get back to the previous checkpoint. And there is a checkpoint that is automatically saved every time you do some notable action. I don't know, you defeat a group of enemies, or you arrive to a room, etc. Usually every 1, 2, 3 minutes, you have a checkpoint of this kind, which is good. So it means when you die, you don't lose so much of your progress. The movement and interactions in this game are modification of the standard ones, in the sense that there are some standard interactions that are enabled, like you can move with the time stick, you can snap turn with the other time stick, which is pretty standard. But there are some kind of additional uses of the right thumbstick, for instance. So you can press it to crouch, or you sometimes when you're close to some either higher or lower places, you can go forward with the right thumbstick to either go on a box, on a step, whatever, or go down, for instance, in a place where you can hide. Then you can use the left thumbstick, pressing it and go forward to run, for instance. Or when you're fighting, you use the left thumbstick on left and right to dodge some punches that you're going to get. Um, and then there are some other interactions that are more related to specific moments, like for fighting, there is a few things you can do to dodge in a special way. You can go back with the right thumbstick to turn around 180 degrees and things like that. Then you can use the A button to shoot with the grapple gun, like you can shoot a hook and then drag yourself to the high place. This can happen only on high places and only when you can do that. So the rationale is that in some places you can do this thing because the hook is going to work, in others not, but actually it's a bit strange for me. And then there is the B button that sometimes is used to, for instance, throw a grenade, small grenade, but only in some contexts when they're shooting at you and things like that. I will get to that in a moment. Then let me also tell you about interactions. As I said, not all the objects are interactive. You can grab objects with the grip button of your controller, and then of course you can do actions or shoot with the trigger button. Getting the grabbing objects, this is sometimes I would like to have had like the gravity gloves or Half-Life Alyx, because you have to go pretty close to objects to grab them. So I understand why there are not gravity gloves, because of course sometimes you have to solve these puzzles to get this little statue of the Red King, and if you can use the gravity gloves, I mean, you don't solve the puzzle anymore, just attract it. But sometimes it's frustrating that something falls to the floor and you just have to go very close with your hands to the object to get it. I'm like, okay, it's on the floor. Can't I just grab it this way from me standing without crouching physically to get it? But anyway, this side of things, I would say the controls are pretty fine. Then there are some actions you can do, which are pretty cool, especially because they emulate the movement of Batman. Like you can glide by gripping the cape close to you, opening the arms like this, and gliding over a place that is lower than you. And that's super cool. You feel Batman in that moment. You're like, wow, I'm really doing that. And then you can get some things on your body, like the Batarang, or you can, for instance, press the trigger here close to your head to activate detective mode. So there are some additional special actions that you can do physically also to interact with the game. But if you ask me what I think about this game regarding the input, I would say it's pretty confusing. Because on one side, some things like moving, snap turning, etc., it's pretty normal, it works, etc. But then sometimes the controls become very confusing, especially during fighting. You know, sometimes you have 9 enemies around you have to punch. While you punch one, another one may attack you, or things like that. And in that moment, so there is a lot of tension, and it's a bit frustrating that maybe I try to get a better rank here and I don't get it. Or I try to make a punch with this movement, which involves the grip and the trigger button press. Maybe I don't press one exactly correctly, and so it understands this gesture as me trying to get the cape to stun the enemies with this movement. So sometimes I try to punch and I stun the enemy. Or there are a lot of possible actions when you punch. The L, the button to dodge, the R to do that movement, the R to rotate. How can you remember all these things when you're fighting? If the game was only about fighting, I guess that maybe after 1 hour I would have mastered these controls. But there is fighting, then there is story, then there is stealth, then there is puzzle, then there is fighting again. And I'm like, I have no clue. I just keep moving things randomly sometimes, and it's hard to be tactical. I read that Ben Lango for 2 years said sometimes you have to go back to the guide and look the controls again before fighting because you forgot how to do some stuff. So I think that's not a good sign. And plus, I would say there are a lot of actions to do, and some things involve also the A and B button. And I really challenge you to remember what's the A and what's the B button. I keep pressing them the wrong way all the time. So I want to activate a grenade, and no, I activate the grapple gun. So it's like super frustrating. I think the developers realized it. In fact, the game has constant suggestions about what to have to do. So, for instance, when you have to stun an enemy, in the Predator mode, you usually have to grab it and then do this movement, like pretending that you are, making them choke so they faint. But the game gives you visual indicator, do this movement, do this movement, do this movement, also for the punches, also for when you have to use the grapple gun, still the game after 3 hours still say press A to activate that. When someone is firing at you, oh now press B to activate the uh, smoke grenade. And I'm like, why can I activate a smoke grenade now and not when, for instance, someone is punching at me? And it's so like, what the hell are we doing? And luckily, the game gives a lot of visual indicators about what you can do, and even if you forget how to do stuff, usually you still can win the fight just by punching and using the cape to stun enemies. But I would say probably I would make the game less complicated about controls, honestly. Since the game is also tries to be not too complicated with the story, with the game being a binary, the puzzles are very easy. Probably I would have used less buttons and special moves, etc., to make the game entertaining. But anyway, in the end of the day, it's still enjoyable, just sometimes feels very confusing. Where this game truly shines is in the audio and video sectors. I mean, chapeau to the team at Camouflage for having made this game with such amazing visuals, such amazing environments, and audio and soundtrack, everything on this game. I will tell about the immersion in the next section of this video, but let me tell you that's crazy. I'm a developer, My main job is not the one of being doing videos or blog posts, etc. And so I work with team, making graphics or audio, etc. And I know how it's difficult to reach visuals on a standalone device like the Quest. And the level of the quality the graphics in this game is crazy. There are even some moments where you have some dynamic shadows. Dynamic shadows is the first thing you remove when you develop a quest because you're like, there is no computation to do that. They are not in every part of the game. They talk about it on Upload VR, if I remember well, about Arkham Shadow has dynamic lights or things like that. It's not dynamic lights everywhere, but in some places there are, and it's pretty insane. And I can spot also a lot of things that fake, maybe dynamic lighting or things like that. But all these things put together put this game really on a super high threshold for standalone devices. I would say maybe even a little beyond Red Matter 2. But anyway, that's the ballpark. Some amazing things, graphics, textures, 3D models. There are lots of tricks they use, of course, to put you always in close places so they don't have to render, open world, whatever. But that's smart. You don't realize it when you play. So there is water sometimes, light effects, sparkles, a lot of stuff. Okay, you still realize it's a mobile game. We are not having Half-Life Alyx level of graphics, but still very, very, very good. You will not complain about this. And the voiceover is great, so the actors play very well. The music is also amazing, always the right vibe, you are, for instance, in a moment and is going to have a fight, and you feel this Music conveys you tension because Batman is angry and is going towards one of the people he hates because he's done something bad. You feel this music becomes louder and louder and louder, and you're like, wow, this is putting really me in the right vibe. And I really have to give my biggest kudos to people camouflage for this. Okay, I like to be perfectionist sometimes, and I notice there are some little problems. Sometimes I notice, when the 3D model changes the LOD. So I could notice that if I get closer, I got a bit more of details. I could sometimes see some FPS drop, so the game had some slight stutters. But really looking if you really look into problems, you see the problems. But most of the time, you will just see a game with amazing multimedia elements. Multimedia led me to talk about immersion, and my feedback here is that technically speaking, this game is fucking immersive. I mean, you are into this world that is very well crafted, and you really feel into this dark city that is into riots. And I think that the great multimedia element contribute. The music is fantastic to put you inside the vibe, and now you have a lot of details that are in the scenes, like there is these riots, and you see fire in places, you see graffitis, you find some letters around crazy people. So there are many things that help you in putting you into this city. And also, I would say some moments, some little details are fundamental for that. And one that I like to highlight is the shadow of Batman. So it's the first moment, if I remember well, that you become Batman. There is a light behind you, and you see when you look down that you have the shadow of Batman. That's fucking cool. And the shadow moves with you, so it's dynamic, it's more realistic. And so for that moment, you're like, okay, but so am I really Batman in a way? So also because it's a famous IP. So it may be also a bit of a dream of everyone to be Superman, Batman, etc. So seeing that, feeling that is totally, totally amazing. You don't feel just a random hero. You feel like Batman, the famous one. And so I would say these little things, the details, really put you into Gotham as Batman. There is a moment later where there is a bit of change of environment from the initial city, and you have an initial moment when you enter into this place, and where nothing happens. There is no story, whatever, but just walking you around, entering this place, you feel inside it. You have all these introduction that make you feel inside it. So everything has been very studied for immersion. And I really, again, double thumbs up for Camouflage for doing that. Really, really, really great. There are a few things that I have to say maybe can be done a bit better, but it's okay also this way, in my opinion, even if someone else disagrees. So one is the interactions. Not everything is interactive, as I've said. Maybe you have 10 books and only one is one you can grab. And even if you grab it, you cannot open it, etc. So again, it's not Alex. But again, I'm a developer. I know you have to take compromises when you make a game. You have a budget, you have deadline, you have people to manage, and you have resources you have on the device, and making all the objects interactive is going to cost you a lot in all the sides. So they made an amazing job for all the rest. I think it's a good compromise to take, also because the game is a bit tries to be a bit on rail, and so for me that is fine. The thing that is a bit less fine to me is that the game feels on rails. So sometimes things that maybe could have been interactive are not. So let's say I'm not against having, the books that are not all interactive. I honestly don't care. They don't add anything to the story. or to my interactions. I just find it nice to get them and tell them. But, you do one, two, three times and it's over. But for instance, when there is an NPC at a certain point, there are some guards, and they're not there to fight you. They're just patrolling, whatever. And sometimes I will just like, okay, what happens if I punch one of them? And nothing happens. I mean, nothing happens in the sense that your hand trespasses their face. So they're not even that you move them and they say stop it. Something a bit boring, whatever. Nothing happens. And that a bit breaks the immersion because sometimes I like these details in games. I mean, something that may happen. Or maybe they can kill you. Maybe you don't do it again. Or maybe they can just say stop it or whatever. But especially with people in the game seeing no reaction at all, it's a bit strange. And then sometimes I would like to maybe try to do something a bit crazy, try to go beyond the barrier, whatever. You cannot, never. The game is literally on rails. So sometimes I would have preferred a bit more of something that may happen. I don't know, some Easter eggs, some additions. So again, I understand again budget and other kind of decisions like that. So this is not something I say, oh, then the game is bad. But I would have preferred to have something more. And regarding the story, I think the story is interesting. I liked it, to be honest. I know that someone thinks that the story maybe is delivered a bit in a slow way. I think that I didn't notice that, but what I found is sometimes being there in VR, standing in the middle of your room and waiting and hearing some dialogues is a bit like, uh, no, guys, I just want action. If you want to hear dialogues, just watch a movie in 2D on the screen. So sometimes I have this moment when I want to get a bit of more of lore and I go close to NPCs and start talking between them. And it's interesting, it's enjoyable, but again, why should I be in VR watching two people saying blah blah blah? So I do it a bit and then I get bored. So I would say maybe shorter moments, let's say, more than faster, would have been better to me because otherwise becomes slow, etc. But still, I appreciate that, for instance, these NPCs when you are in some places and they speak between them and you can go there listening to what they're saying, even if it's not part of the main story, whatever, you get some lore, you get more into the mood. It's all part of the detail they put in trying to put you more into a story. Sometimes I was in a place and was a TV on and I could see um, the TV with some TV news about what was happening in Gotham City. Again, makes everything more immersive. So again, it's not perfect 100%, but I would say very, very great. And I was forgetting one thing, which is very important. That is about sometimes you grab enemies and you want to make them talk, and then the system, so you grab them and they start speaking. Maybe they say, "I don't speak with you, Batman," and then you appears the icon. You have to punch them, and then they say, "No, wait," and you punch them again, and so on. So it's like you are really Batman interrogating these people that don't want to speak, and then you punch them, and then slowly they start speaking. And this is again another immersive moment. I really want to tell you because this, I think, it's one of the things that it's very cool about the game. Talking about comfort, this is a mostly comfortable game. There are a few things sometimes that may be uncomfortable, some little frame drops, or there are the moments where he glides, or he uses the grapple gun, or there are some scenes about storytelling that have some automatic movements of camera. So if you're really, really, really sensitive to motion sickness, don't play it. But if you are not in that situation, so you can still have some little moments and you don't feel nauseous, this is a comfortable game. I had no problems at all, and I guess most of you will not have any problems at all by using it. And also, this offers you a lot of options in the beginning. You start the game, there are already 20 options to customize about your movement, the vignette, etc. maybe someone plays this as first game, doesn't even know what they mean, but it already has this option. So I think that's really, really great on this side. And one thing is about, punching is Tyson. So if you are someone with problems, in staying standing for long periods of time or in punching, do some fitness, etc., maybe take regular pauses while playing this game because it can give you again some sense of tiredness. But as the rest, as I said, mostly comfortable game. I enjoyed it on this side. Two little things I want to add about this game that I didn't know what chapter to put. The first one is that the game is translated, so not the audio. The voiceover is the original one. Probably think it's a wise decision, so you can get the original audio and the original voiceover, which is fantastic. But you have subtitles like in Italian, which is my language, and I really appreciate that because even if I understand English, it's always better, especially in games or where the voices are distorted, like the one of Batman, to have a reference, especially in my language. That's amazing. And I've read some studies in the past about how having a game that is localized also increments the immersion and the stickiness to the game and things like that. So, great job about the localization. And the other one is that sometimes there are some bugs. In fact, there is a hotfix coming these days because, for instance, at a certain point I fall into the void. Like I was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Then I tried to jump and I was in a fight. I was like, what the hell is happening? I was inside a hidden place, and then 1 second after I was into the void, and 1 second after I was with 10 people wanting to beat me. Okay, that's weird. But I mean, bugs happen, and this game is not immune to that. This game is bundled with Quest and Quest 3S, and I think that's a great decision. In the sense that I guess that what Zook wanted to do is that you get a Quest 3S, you get Batman game, and probably the first thing you do is playing Batman because it's free. I mean, after the first encounters, the welcome demos, whatever, you play this amazing game. You say, "Oh wow, VR is amazing. I can feel Batman. I can feel in Gotham. VR is fantastic. Let me try the other games." I think it's a great way to introduce people to VR. Since they are not curating the store anymore, having a way to guide people into their first experience, and it's a fantastic one, which I guess they invested millions. I think it's a great, 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 great idea. And I think it's going to work this Christmas or winter vacations or however you want to call it that period. I think it's going to work very well. So great job. But on the other side, I also criticize one thing. So you created a headset that has Fresnel lenses, which have God rays and glares and this kind of mess. And the God rays happens when you are in a dark scene and there are bright elements. So you are in a black place and there are white writings. Batman is all about being in dark places and the writings are all in white. So probably I would have chosen a more colorful game to showcase the device. Also, I'm noticing a lot of chromatic aberrations. I've found more problems with the Quest 3S by playing Batman than by other tests I've done. So, very good choice for VR new buyers. Confusing choice, I would say, for VR experts because I would have probably chose a game that could hide more these technical issues. But anyway, I'm a very tech guy and I noticed these things, so I wanted to tell you. In any case, lots of kids are going to love it. So, what can I say about this? This is an amazing game, maybe the best game of the year on standalone. Waiting for Metro Alien, Behemoth, and other very promising games. Um, the level of immersion it gives it's amazing. It's over the roof because they put a lot of attention in the environments, in the audio. I really don't know how they deliver the graphical quality. It's impressive. As a tech guy, I can say it's impressive. The story is cool, yes, could be perfect. Something could have been done better, but still it's a great game. Maybe the only critic for me is about the input and the fighting, which is a bit confusing and also a bit repetitive, also the fighting thing. But as I said, making something perfect is impossible, and it is still a very, very enjoyable game. And I appreciated really feeling inside Gotham, feeling Batman, living the story of Batman. I really liked it as the storytelling thing. With the fighting for me being a bit secondary also because I didn't enjoy it totally. But still was cool. I mean, I'm not saying, oh, the fight was horrible. The fighting was not at the same level of the other things, in my opinion, and also the input management. But overall, this doesn't ruin my final consideration of the game. So if I didn't have this work to do, I would have finished it, maybe even without forgetting about life, without eating, without going to the bathroom. I will just stay the whole day playing the game. And the total duration of the game, for my projection on my playtime and what I read around, is 10, 11, 12 hours, which is still decent. And I totally advise you to get this game either for free with your Quest 3S or Quest 3, or buying it because it's really a highlight and something gives you a lot of fun. So buy this game. And that's it. My review ended. I hope you are still awake. If you survived until the end of this video, let me know in the comments. You're a winner. I don't know what, of my eternal gratitude, I guess. So please like this video and subscribe to my channel so I can keep doing these reviews and play some games pretending that it still work. And we see you at my next videos. For now, enjoy your day in VR. Bye bye.